This program is brought to you by Emory University.
It's great to be back in Emory after a year. In that year, at least, I have been able to establish the Indian Consulate in Atlanta so that I can be some service to our people here. It's a great honor and privilege to be again back to the Halle Institute in Emory University, a great seat of learning. I learned about Mr. Halle from Ambassador Creekmore, and I think his, by the announcement of $3 billion investment by the CEO of Coke in last month in Delhi, his soul may rest in peace more comfortably. Because he said he was the head of the Coca-Cola International, and it was during his time he had to face some troubles in India, but I'm glad now India is one of the major markets. But I've come here and I'm delighted to have this opportunity to speak to you on India's foreign policy with particular emphasis in our relationships with our bilateral relationship with the United States of America and our neighbors, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Let me introduce about few words about the Indian foreign policy. India's commitment to internationalism, independence of judgment in the conduct of external relations, support to democratization of world order, and contributions to the maintenance of international peace and security are enduring legacies of India's national movement. This enjoys strong support across the political spectrum in India. India's foreign policy in 21st century will remain rooted in these core values, but it will continuously adapt to the changing external circumstances and the shifting domestic needs. The foremost priority of India's foreign policy will be to create a favorable external environment for pursuit of collective prosperity and the individual welfare of all Indian people. Our interests are firmly anchored in a stable global order and also a peaceful neighborhood. We need an open and equitable international trading system, a stable financial system, reliable, affordable, and secure energy supplies, and food security. We also need bilateral as well as international partners for technology and innovation to meet the extraordinary scale of our developmental challenges. In turn, India's own progress will, which we believe in its modest way, will affirm the values of democracy and pluralism, contribute to peace and stability, and provide one of the pillars of the global economy. Our foreign policy is therefore an instrument of our development, but also a vehicle to fulfill our global responsibilities. As we look at the priorities of Indian foreign policy in the decades ahead, we see not only convergence of interests with the United States, but also a belief in the importance of a strong partnership between our two great democracies in achieving our shared goals. Ours is a relationship, as Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh has said, and I quote, founded on many pillars, it is based on pragmatism and principle, and strengthened by shared values and common interests, unquote. President Obama had characterized India-US bilateral relationship as a defining partnership of the 21st century. Friends, you may recall that Prime Minister Singh was invited by President Obama in November 2009 to be the first state guest of his presidency. President Obama's own landmark visit to India in November 2010, the first by a US president in his first term, paved the way for many accomplishments in our relationship. As our ambassador has recently observed in a blog, that a silent revolution is taking place in the way India and the US engage with each other. The depth and expanse of the mutually rewarding partnership and the stakes both countries have built in each other's success are unprecedented today. The strength of our relationship is also reflected in the presence of large India caucus in both chambers of the US Congress. These are, we understand, the largest bilateral caucuses in the US Congress today. Our strategic partnership today is rich in content, comfort, and candor. It also has an ever-increasing global relevance, making a difference beyond our shores from Afghanistan to Africa. There is increasing convergence in our foreign policy priorities. We have shared approaches to some of the most complex regional and global challenges of our times. And I say this because today India is the chairman of the UN Security Council. And in that context, we have to face every day whatever is the global challenges of our times. Our defense partnership with US, including defense trade, has been strengthened, just as our cooperation in counter-terrorism and other strategic pursuits, including maritime and cyber security. The Obama administration's commitment to India's membership of multilateral export control regimes, as well as President Obama's support for India's permanent membership of the UN Security Council, has indeed been encouraging to us. We remain committed to bring our civil nuclear cooperation to a tangible fruition. Friends, an unprecedented level of bilateral engagement, as I mentioned earlier, has been sustained this year with the visit of 7 US Secretaries of States to India. Now with US, we have an institutional mechanism every year at the level of our foreign ministers to conduct what is called strategic dialogue. The third series of the strategic dialogue took place in Washington this year in June, and this provided a unique opportunity to review trade and economic ties and progress in other areas of multifaceted cooperation between our two countries, as also to chart a roadmap for advancing India-USA global strategic partnership across all areas. The annual strategic dialogue also saw enormous progress on the 5 principles of expanding cooperation, that is strategic cooperation, energy and climate change, education and development, economy, trade, agriculture, science and technology, health and innovation. In fact, if you see the joint statement of the strategic dialogue of June 12, it covers few pages, and I would not be able to do full justice to it, so I have brought some copies if you want to have a look. Friends, another important aspect of our bilateral trade is the goods and services have increased fourfold since 2005 to reach $100 billion. Capital flows are now two-way phenomena. US still remains one of the largest investors in India's growth, and at the same time, Indian companies have also invested and integrated with the US economy. For example, from 2005 till 2009, Indian companies have invested about $25.5 billion in about 43 states in a wide-ranging fields like IT products and services, manufacturing, distribution, packaging, and of course, educational tie-ups. There is value creation and job creation by the Indian companies in the US economy. For example, last year, Indian IT companies supported 280,000 jobs in US, of which 110,000 jobs were directly employed. To further boost investments in each other's economy, negotiations on a bilateral investment treaty have resumed and were continued when last month the US Treasury Secretary visited India. We are also looking for investments. For example, infrastructure is $1 trillion opportunity. But going beyond all this trade and investment, I feel the strongest element in our partnership is the people-to-people dimension. The 3 million strong Indian American community has come of age and plays a vital role in expanding the numerous connections which make our relationship people-centric. Today, more than 100,000 Indian students study in US universities, contributing about $3 billion annually as tuition fees. There are about 60,000 Indian origin doctors in US. 40% of all hotel rooms in US are owned by Indian Americans. In a recent peer report, Indian Americans emerged as the highest income and best educated among the Asian Americans in USA. So now we have had the elections, so naturally the new question will be posed to us. So what do you see the future relationship under the second Obama administration? But let me answer that question by quoting our Prime Minister, Dr. Singh, from his congratulatory message to President Obama on his re-election. And I quote, "Over the last 4 years, consistent with our vision of a global strategic partnership between India and USA, the ties between our two democracies have seen sustained growth. You have not only advanced cooperation across the full spectrum of our bilateral relationship, but also deepened our engagement in the pursuit of global peace, stability, and prosperity. I have no doubt that there is much more we can do together to further strengthen the India-US partnership and thereby advance peace and stability, expand mutual economic opportunities, harness the potential of science and technology, innovation, and higher education, and empower our people to address global challenges," unquote. Therefore, as far as Indo-US relations is concerned, there is a rich and textured agenda ahead of us. The shared vision of Prime Minister Singh and President Obama will continue to guide our close relationship to even deeper and more rewarding engagement, even as it derives strong support from across the political spectrum in both our countries. Friends, let me now present to you the current state of relations between India and our neighbor Pakistan. India desires peaceful and cooperative relations with Pakistan. We are committed to resolving all outstanding issues with Pakistan through dialogue in an atmosphere free of terror and violence. We believe that a stable Pakistan, acting as a bulwark against terrorism and extremism, is in the interest of Pakistan, our region, and beyond. We believe that India-Pakistan relations have to be normalized for the two countries and our peoples to realize the destiny of peace, progress, and prosperity. The greater economic and commercial cooperation will contribute to economic growth and development in the two countries and would also contribute to bridging the trust deficit. After the horrific Mumbai attacks in November 2008, the frozen Indo-Pak relations were revived when the two prime ministers met at the SAARC summit in Thimphu in Bhutan in April 2010. And in pursuance of the mandate given by the two prime ministers of India and Pakistan, the two foreign ministers met in July 2010, and the foreign minister of Pakistan visited India in July 2011. And this was an important meeting because it was preceded by a whole series of meetings at the highest civilian level, what we call secretary level in India. And both ministers expressed satisfaction on holding these meetings and importance of carrying forward the dialogue process with a view of resolving all outstanding issues through constructive and result-oriented engagement. The ministers agreed to continuation of the dialogue process and to the convening series of secretary-level meetings. Now let me point out here, I'm not going into the background of the Indo-Pak relation, which most of you are fully aware of it, but I'm going to just point out what has happened in the last 2 years, which has seen some progress in India-Pakistan relations towards normalization. Let me mention here that the Commerce Minister of Pakistan visited India at the invitation of India's Commerce Minister in September-October 2011, that's just a year back, and the ministers agreed to jointly work to more than double the bilateral trade from within 3 years from $2.6 billion to $6 billion in 2014. Thereafter, the Prime Ministers of India and Pakistan again met at the sidelines of the SAARC summit, that South Asia Regional Cooperation Summit, in November 2011, in Maldives, and they expressed satisfaction, but here the Prime Minister Singh mentioned to then Prime Minister Gulani that terrorism is a perennial concern in India, and stressed that it was imperative to bring the perpetrators of Mumbai attacks to justice by speedy conclusion of the ongoing trial in anti-terrorism court in Rawalpindi involving 7 accused in the Mumbai terror attacks. However, both PMs also agreed that people are at the heart of the relationship between the two countries and that people-to-people contacts and the cultural exchanges should be promoted. During the 6th round of the Commerce Secretary level talks held between India and Pakistan in Delhi in November last, Indian side welcomed the decision by Pakistan to accord most favored nation status to India and the mandate given by Pakistan side by its cabinet for complete normalization of trade with India. You may recall that India gave the MFN a most favored nation status to Pakistan in 1996 according to the WTO convention. So we are very glad that in 2012 Pakistan is going to return the favor. Friends, our Commerce Minister, Mr. Anand Sharma, went with a very high-powered delegation to Pakistan in February this year, and this was the first ever substantive visit by Commerce Minister of India to Pakistan, where both sides agreed to adhere to the roadmap drawn by the Commerce Secretaries for full normalization of trade relations and also for moving towards enhancing the preferential trading arrangements under SAFTA. SAFTA is what is under the SAARC, it's called South Asian Free Trade Agreement. We are trying to implement it so that we can emulate the rest of the world in having South Asia also having a free trade arrangement. Thereafter, there have been series of meetings this year, and also there was a visit by a judicial commission from Pakistan regarding the trial underway in Pakistan about the 7 accused in Mumbai terror attacks. And they visited India in March 2012 to record the statements of the 4 prosecution witnesses. Also this year we have had series of visits which has not got the attention of the Western media. For example, the Speaker of the Indian Parliament, the lower house, Mrs. Meera Kumar, visited at the invitation of the Speaker of the Pakistan Parliament with a large parliamentary delegation to Pakistan this February. Thereafter, we have had Indo-Pak talks on what is called Tulbul Navigation Project in Kashmir. What we call them, Pakistan calls them Vula Barrage. But more importantly, there was a private visit by President of Pakistan in April 2012, Mr. Asif Ali Zardari. He was on a pilgrimage to a place called Ajmer Sharif in India, in the state of Rajasthan. And coincidentally, when I was in early 90s, I had escorted his late wife, Miss Benazir Bhutto, to the same place, Ajmer Sharif, because she wanted to go and pray, and so did Mr. Zardari. But our Prime Minister found a useful occasion to call him for lunch to Delhi to have substantive talks, and both leaders expressed appreciation of the fact that Pakistan has moved forward on the trade-related issues. Both leaders felt that considerable potential for bilateral economic trade and ties needed to be tapped, and they discussed, of course, the problem of terrorism, which is a major issue by which Indian people will judge the progress in bilateral relationship. Thereafter, the Commerce Minister of Pakistan visited in April, and we had substantive talks with India, Pakistan, what we call the Home Secretary level, Pakistan calls Interior Secretary level, and the contours of a new visa agreement were then agreed to, but Pakistan wanted that there should be a political level functionary from India at a higher level, at a minister level, to come and then sign it. There was also Defense Secretary level talks on Siachen issues. Thereafter, and this was happening in June itself, and thereafter Surveyor General of India, Surveyor General of Pakistan and Indian Additional Secretary talked about what is called a Sir Creek issue, including the demarcation of the maritime boundary between India and Pakistan in the Arabian Sea. This was followed in July by the Foreign Secretaries level talk between two sides in Delhi. And they talked about peace and security, including confidence building measures, Jammu and Kashmir, and promotion of friendly exchanges, and reviewed the ongoing implementation of the already adopted nuclear and conventional CBMs between India and Pakistan, and decided to call separate meetings of the expert level groups. Now, in recent times, the most substantive visit was the visit of our External Affairs Minister, as we call our Foreign Minister, then Mr. Krishna, visited this September to review progress on the second round of resumed dialogue process, because so many meetings had taken place and we wanted also to chart the course for our future engagement. Another important aspect of this visit was the meeting of the bilateral joint commission between India and Pakistan. And they had 8 technical level working groups on agriculture, education, environment, health, information, IT and telecom, science and technology, and tourism. And this bilateral joint commission between India and Pakistan was held after a gap of 5 years. But the most important result of the visit was a new bilateral visa agreement and MOU on cultural cooperation between Indian Council of Cultural Relations and Pakistan National Council for Arts, which was signed between both sides. The new visa agreement introduces further liberalization of visa regime between India and Pakistan to facilitate travel by business persons, tourists, pilgrims, elderly persons, and children. During the talks, when our Foreign Minister went there, he also recalled the commitment given by Pakistan during the Interior Home Secretary level talks in May 2012 to bring all perpetrators of the Mumbai terror attacks to justice expeditiously in accordance to the due process of law. Thereafter, the 7th round of India-Pakistan Commerce Secretary talks were held, and Pakistan welcomed India's decision to remove restrictions on bilateral investments, and Pakistan would complete full transition of the MFM status, as I mentioned earlier. Last week, an interesting development took place. India agreed after 4 years that we will welcome Pakistani cricket team to visit India and play cricket matches. Now, this is saying in America, it might be strange to some people, but as I mentioned in Ambassador Creekmore's class, that it is cricket for us is like a religion, and it is like, let's say in America, if you put football, baseball, and all your basketball all together, for us it is cricket. And that is a great, I think it's a significant development for promotion of people-to-people relation between India and Pakistan. When India visited Pakistan last time for a test series in 2006, plenty of our people, thousands of Indians, went to Pakistan and they were received with open arms. And also Pakistanis have come in some other matches, and I hope this time also there will be thousands of Pakistanis visiting India. And as you know, the Indo-Pakistan rivalry, cricket rivalry, is one of the most intense sports rivalries of the world. You can see there is slight drop in productivity in both countries when the match is going on. And as part of cricket, you must have heard of ping pong diplomacy and all that, but there is between India and Pakistan and South Asia what is called a cricket diplomacy. And last March, we had the visit of then Pakistani Prime Minister, Mr. Yusuf Raza Gilani, who came to Chandigarh to see the semi-final of the Indo-Pakistan cricket match, semi-final match. It's a different matter that we keep defeating Pakistan, but they are most welcome to visit India and try their hand again. We wish them the very best. So, ladies and gentlemen, to finish my presentation on Indo-Pak relations, let me say that in spite of the many contentious issues, India and Pakistan have made major strides in reducing the trust deficit over the past 2 years. India has welcomed Pakistan's efforts to normalize trade relations for moving from positive to negative lists and their eventual elimination. India in turn has allowed foreign direct investment from Pakistan, and new visa regime with Pakistan has been formalized with Pak Cabinet ratifying it last month. Prime Minister's message to President of Pakistan was to find practical and pragmatic solutions to all outstanding issues through constructive and result-oriented engagement. Both President of Pakistan and Prime Minister of India have agreed that people are at the heart of the relationship between the two countries and that people-to-people contacts and cultural exchanges should be promoted. But our relations can only grow in an atmosphere free of terror and violence. Friends, now let me come to the last part of my presentation and briefly explain about India's relations with another one of our neighbors and a member of SAARC, that is South Asia Regional Cooperation Forum. And India and Afghanistan have a strong relationship based on historical and cultural links. And as I was mentioning in your class, and I would repeat, when we were kids in India, we had what you call, first of all, the short, great story of the Nobel laureate from India, Rabindranath Tagore, called Kabuli Wala. It's a very sensitive story, and it talks about a Pathan who belongs to the Pashtun tribe in Afghanistan, which we all knew as kids, because that where this country was. And secondly, we have had these Pathans coming to India, and Atul would know, we would see it in our childhood, these guys in the big long flowing robes going around selling all weird things, including lending money and all that. Of course, nowadays we don't see much. I don't know whether they are not from India. There is no visa restrictions, but maybe Pakistan falls in between, and they are not so much allowed. But basically today what India is doing with Pakistan is playing a significant role in the reconstruction and rehabilitation of Pakistan. We believe that democracy and development are the key instruments to ensure that Afghanistan becomes a source of regional stability. The principal objective of India's development partnership, covering the entire Afghanistan and all sectors of development, is to build indigenous Afghan capacity and institutions. Now, again, like I mentioned about the Indo-Pak relations, with Indo-Afghan relations, I'm not going into the background and the historical context. I will just mention the three important recent developments which are important in our relationship with Afghanistan. The first is the official visit by Prime Minister of India to Afghanistan in May 2011, where he called on, of course, and met and discussed various issues with President Hamid Karzai. He met a cross-section of Afghan leadership and addressed a joint session of the Afghan Parliament, the first foreign leader to be given the honor in recent times. He announced a fresh package of US dollars 500 million in assistance. This is over and above India's existing commitment of almost US dollars 1.5 billion for reconstruction and development of Afghanistan. Now let me mention the second important development, and this happened during President Karzai's visit to India in October 2011. Prime Minister of India and President Karzai signed a historic agreement on strategic partnership between Afghanistan and India, first such agreement signed by Afghanistan with any country. The agreement reinforced the strong, vibrant and multifaceted relations between two countries, and at the same time formalized a framework for cooperation in various areas between the two countries: political and security cooperation, trade and economic cooperation, capacity development and education, social, cultural, civil society and people-to-people relations. This agreement is a strong signal of our abiding commitment to peace, stability and prosperity in Afghanistan during the critical period of security and governance transition. Now let me mention about the third important development. India hosted what was called Delhi Summit on Investment in Afghanistan in June this year. A 25-member strong delegation from Afghanistan, which included several members of the cabinet, participated, and the objective of this summit was to attract foreign investment into Afghanistan, including from India, in the light of new opportunities opening up in various sectors in that country. The Delhi Investment Summit on Afghanistan was organized in line with India's long-term commitment to assisting people and government of Afghanistan as they build a peaceful, pluralistic, democratic, and prosperous Afghanistan. There has also been a large number of bilateral visits at high-level officials and ministers from both countries, including next week President Karzai would again be in India, because this period, as you mentioned, is important before the transition takes place after the US troops withdraw in 2014. But I would like to mention here, how is India spending this $2 billion which it has committed to Afghanistan's development? And basically it is spending on development projects in Afghanistan, which can be broadly divided into 4 categories. First, large infrastructure projects. Second, humanitarian assistance. Third, capacity building initiatives. And fourth, small development projects. Let me elaborate on each one of them briefly. India has taken a number of medium and large infrastructure projects in its assistance program in Afghanistan. Some of these are construction of 218 kilometers road from Jaranj to Dilaram for facilitating movement of goods and services to the Iranian border. This project has been completed and handed over to the government of Afghanistan. Secondly, we have constructed 220 kilowatts transmission line from Pule Khumri to Kabul, and another substation to bring power from northern border countries to Kabul. This has also been completed and was handed over by Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, who was then our minister and is now President of India. We also are helping reconstruction of Salma Dam for power cum irrigation project in Herat, and we have also constructed the Afghan Parliament. The second aspect of our development assistance is the humanitarian assistance, which includes the provision for free medicines and through 5 Indian medical missions located in Kabul, Mazar-e-Sharif, Jalalabad, Herat, and Kandahar. We are also providing food assistance of 1 million tons of wheat in the form of high-protein biscuits distributed to about 1.5 million school children in Afghanistan, daily under a school feeding program administered by the World Food Programme. We are also reconstructing and renovating Indira Gandhi Institute of Child Health in Kabul, and we have also gifted 10 ambulances. The third aspect of our development assistance is in the sector of education and capacity development, and we are giving lots of scholarships. For example, 675 Indian Council Cultural Relations scholarships, long-term university scholarships, 675 short-term Indian technical and economic cooperation scholarships, where we select people who come to India or are trained in various institutions in India. We are also giving vocational training for 3,000 Afghans in carpentry, plumbing, welding, masonry, and tailoring, as well as a similar training project by Indian NGO Seva for setting up Women's Vocational Training Center in Bagh-e-Zanana for training 1,000 Afghan women in garment making, nursery plantation, food processing, and marketing. The last of our development assistance program is for the special program to foster community-based small development projects in vulnerable border areas in the field of agriculture, rural development, education, health, vocational training, etc., that can have direct and visible impact on community life and with focus on local ownership and management. Now the natural question arises, what is the way forward? We, especially I was asked in your class about 2014. Well, as far as India is concerned, we welcome the international community's long-term commitment to Afghanistan. In view of the current security situation, it is important that the international community remains engaged in Afghanistan and supports it in this process of transition and transformation. Any perception of lack of will on the part of the international community to deal firmly with terrorist groups will risk Afghanistan sliding back into a safe haven for terrorist and extremist groups that threaten the region and beyond. Now let me conclude where I started about the Indian foreign policy. And I would like to say that the foreign policy is a reflection of the priorities that a nation defines for itself as it seeks to develop, to be secure, to withstand external threats and to ensure that its national and developmental interests are not affected or diluted by actions by hostile players in the global arena. In an Asia-centered century, we will naturally wish to ensure that a role for India that is commensurate with its size, its growing economic strength, its democratic stability, and proven capacity to manage its enormous diversity, its contributions to the global peace and security, and its justified quest for a greater voice in a multilateral system that is balanced, equitable, and representative of the new global realities, not like the UN Security Council, which is a reflection of the victors of the 1945 and not a reflection of the contemporary realities. So friends, we see India as a nation of over 1 billion people, driven by the energy enterprise of its youth, living in a democratic framework, celebrating its unparalleled diversity, pursuing sustainable and inclusive growth, and fulfilling its role as a responsible international citizen to be a major factor of global peace, stability and development and prosperity in the 21st century. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Miqdad Hussain, and I know that the government of India and Pakistan, they are talking bilaterally, the politicians, and trying to resolve the issue. But what about the common man of India and common man of Pakistan? A common man of Pakistan, when it goes to India or Indian comes to Pakistan, they build a very good relationship, and that's much more stronger and much more better than what the Prime Minister or Foreign Minister talk. But one hurdle is the visa. A common man of Pakistan living in Pakistan or here in America, try to go to India, he faces so many difficulties. Why can't you just remove all those difficulties? And I understand that India has some security problem because of the terrorism back in November 2008. But just remember, those terrorists, when they go to India, they do not get the visa. They go to India illegally and do their terrorist activity. Common people like me, him, or everybody else, when we go over there, we face this problem. And in spite of that, we go spend our hard-earned money over there, American dollar, and we build a very good relationship with Indian people. So is there any way you can do to ease the visa tension?
Thank you very much, sir. Your question is very relevant, and that is what the point I was trying to make. It's not only at the Prime Minister level or the Foreign Minister level. The whole effort of the political leadership, the economic leadership, is to build people-to-people relationship. That's at the heart of because there are millions of divided families in both sides, in Pakistan, also in Jammu and Kashmir, and that is why I emphasize the important result of the recent agreement between India and Pakistan when our Foreign Minister went to Pakistan was this agreement on new liberal visa regime, where I've served in Pakistan, so I know the country quite well. So that will help a lot of people and there will be a new visa regime where they will facilitate common man also to travel. And that is a point which we have been emphasizing, and it will become much better. For example, when the cricket team of Pakistan comes on December 25 this year to play with us, then naturally lots of multilateral visas will be given, and it is always we're trying to give multilateral visas and promote people-to-people relationship. I agree with your point. When I served in Pakistan, the most common form of entertainment, I was besieged by the requests by people. In those days there was video cassettes of the Bollywood movies. They are more popular than you think or I think. And there are many areas, and that's the other thing is about the cultural exchange. You see, the more artists come from both sides, people in India and people in Pakistan enjoy each other artists. When I was in Pakistan, I gave visas to one of his first visas to the famous ghazal singer Ghulam Ali. Of course, I told him also to come and sing for us, and including the songs and the ghazals I liked. But he went to India, and of course, he made his millions of dollars. But that's not important. The important thing is he brought his, love and music to the Indian people, and we admire that. Similarly, people like Lata Mangeshkar or somebody is admired or Amitabh Bachchan is admired in Pakistan. So we have to break this firewall and become people to people much more, encourage this relationship. And that's what I think there is a recognition today about the democratic governments that people to people relations need to be encouraged. And I think we have made a headway somewhat in this visa regime. Yes, the lady, please.
Thank you. My name is Susu Zugayer. I'm here at Emory University. My question is about India and China relationships, and is that impacted by US-China relationships?
Thank you, ma'am. That's a very loaded question. Yeah, I was earlier supposed to speak on Indo-China relations, but I thought speaking about India's relation with the USA, Pakistan, and Afghanistan was enough for a day. But I will comment on India's relationship with China. There is India, China are the two ancient civilizations and modern emerging economies. China is the second biggest economy today, and they're having a once in a decade transition this week. They have new leadership. Xi Jinping would take power. Now, we watch very closely. As far as only goods is concerned, China is our biggest trading partner. If you take goods and services, USA is our biggest trading partner. We have a trade of about 100 billion. With China in goods only, we have 70 billion, and China will overtake USA as our number one trading partner in near future. We have some problems on the border, but as mature neighbors, we are talking about it. We are not making it an issue to trade with us, have more people-to-people contact, have relationship develop, and there is a good understanding between India and China about this relationship to be taken at a new level. There are no border clashes. The border is peaceful, and we respect the positions somewhat. If you see, we collaborate today in the UN Security Council, where India is the chairman. We collaborate with them on many issues, whether it's climate change, whether it's so many, because you see the issues are similar. They have a pollution problem, we have a climate change problem. The same issues of development where they have gone far ahead than us. I will concede that. So we can also learn from them. There are certain areas they can also learn from us. If we can learn from the hardware which China produces in IT industry, and they can learn from us about our software industry, then we will become a superpower. But there are many aspects, and we are collaborating with each other in many areas, which deserves a separate lecture. So I'll stop with that. Sir.
Yeah, I was wondering, as a physician. You're not going to hear it. Oh, I'm not going to hear it. Sorry. As a physician, I've been very impressed. One of the things you're doing in India, as I understand it, you have people who work with doctors for like 10 years, and then they go out into rural communities and provide health care for some basic needs without having gone to medical school, but can still do a lot of skills that are very important. We have people here who don't have money and need fairly simple things done so their cancer won't spread. In China, there's a big problem with people getting access to health care. I think from an international perspective, India is further ahead in this area because of this program that you have than any other country I know. And I wonder if you've ever thought of trying to let the rest of the world learn about that particular program where these people who work for 10 years with doctors, haven't gone to medical school, but learn practical things, go back and provide this care like as barefoot doctors.
Thank you very much. That's very relevant as far as healthcare is concerned, and we would like to share our expertise with other nations. For example, with US, with CDC, we have 14 joint collaborative programs. And I called on the CDC CEO, and he had served in India. He's fully aware of what we are capable. We are also doing with CDC what is called an international center of new and emerging disease, because we have to collaborate. Today, when you have a flu threat or some other bird virus threat, it spreads internationally. So you have to cooperate. And we are willing to share this expertise with other nations. We have a lot of collaborative programs under the health ministry with different countries, with CDC and others. And also we, including in Afghanistan, we send doctors, we send also some skilled workers, because doctors only cannot help. You need some infrastructure, some people to help them out. Yes, we are trying that, in fact, but our challenge is that, we are a country of over 1 billion people. So our requirements are huge. The health challenges in India also remain great, and we're just trying to cope up with that. So that is where our energy, half our energy is channelized to. Thanks. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Pankaj Chopra. I just want to address, maybe if not the elephant in the room, but the baby elephant in the room, and that is Kashmir. So my question is, from an Indian perspective, what's the downside of having plebiscite in Kashmir? Thank you.
Well, Jammu and Kashmir, we have talked with our neighbors Pakistan this whole issue. And let me tell you what we have talked with them. We have had comprehensive exchange of views with Pakistan, agreed to continue discussions in a purposeful and forward-looking manner with view to finding a peaceful solution by narrowing divergences and building convergences. Both sides recognize the need to strengthen the existing CBMs for streamlining the arrangements to facilitate travel across the line of actual control in Kashmir. Now, I've lived also in Pakistan. I've also visited Kashmir several times. Today, Kashmir is quite peaceful. There are 2 million Indian tourists who visited. And Shah Rukh Khan's latest movie, Jab Tak Hai Jaan, was also shot there. Coming to your question, you need to study and I didn't want to go into the history. What happened in 1947, the 1948 war, Pakistani tribesmen tried to enter Kashmir. And they entered, the Indian army stopped them. That was our first war in 1948 over Kashmir. Stopped them, pushed back. Pandit Nehru, our first Prime Minister, was a great internationalist. He went to the UN and wanted the army to be, Pakistan army to withdraw from the part of Kashmir which they had held on. If Indian army wanted, they could have pushed them. But in the spirit of magnanimity, as a big country, we went to UN, requested them. If you see the agreement, the UN agreement that time, the agreement of plebiscite was based on the condition that Pakistan forces, which are occupying Kashmir, which is they call Azad Kashmir, should withdraw from these territories. Only then the plebiscite can be held. The second point is, this is about 1948. In 2012, we have had last 2 years, again the democratic aspirations of the people of Kashmir has been expressed. We have a young chief minister out there, Mr. Omar Abdullah. In fact, just other day, I heard him on TV. He welcomed the Indo-Pak cricket series, and he also said that sports should be free from politics. And he's trying to bring a great change, people participatory democracy in Kashmir, for the first time after 20 years, there has been Panchayat election, that is the village council elections in Kashmir, in Jammu and Kashmir, which is an integral part of India, recognized by the Constitution. What we want to do with Pakistan, and that is why it was our proposal which they agreed to, is to have confidence building measures to make the border, the line of actual control, a soft border. And that is why we have started the bus services between India and Pakistani sides of Kashmir. And they are going on quite well. So that is where my answer to your question is, that the negotiations on this issue is also continuing. But as far as India is concerned, we would like the borders as it is. We would like to have more people-to-people exchanges, because the times of war and border changing is over. We need to have economic progress in both sides of Kashmir, and I think in our side of Kashmir, the economic progress has been much better. Yes, sir.
Back to Kashmir, actually. Yesterday, United Kingdom withdrawn the travel advisory ban on Jammu and Kashmir. And well before that, France and Japan did it. Do you think USA will do it? Because, as you said, this young chief minister in Kashmir is doing a lot of stuff, and he welcomed the UK's lifting ban on Jammu and Kashmir travel advisory. And he thinks if this travel advisory ban will be removed by the United States, there will be more tourists, and there will be a lot of economical development will be there. Do you think the US will do it?
Well, US is a sovereign nation. They have to make their own decisions. They're watching as developments, including the development when I heard the present Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Omar Abdullah, saying on television, he was asked this question about what do you think about Indo-US relations and how will it go, and how the second term Obama administration, how it fared. He said that the relationship will become stronger because there is an element of continuity, and both sides need know each other quite well. Of course, there will be change of personnel in the Obama administration, maybe, but both sides have much better understanding. The point I'm trying to make, that if the US administration has heard that, maybe they might like to rethink on their strategy about Kashmir. But one thing is very clear: US position on Kashmir, it has evolved over the years, as Ambassador Creekmore knows. And when President Obama was in India in November 2010, he was asked a question. He said, it is Jammu and Kashmir is an issue between India and Pakistan, and let them resolve it peacefully, which we appreciated. And you're right, today, as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 million tourists, Indian tourists, have visited Kashmir. There are a lot of Israelis also visit, and some other nationalities who visit. Maybe the British are remembering the old hill stations which they created in India, so they have also removed the restriction. So I hope USA might also have a rethink. Yes, sir.
I have two questions. First of all, it's very encouraging to see Indian involvement in Afghanistan. Do you think we're doing anything about the security situation there, such as training the troops or helping with the transition in that sense? My second question is that do you think the Indian cricket team should accept an invitation to play in Pakistan?
Well, your first question about training the security personnel, the military personnel in Afghanistan. Well, you see, I told you, we see in Afghanistan democracy and development. That's our core, and our assistance is for capacity building and development out there. We are not looking at the military side. We are very clear. We don't want to interfere in internal affairs of any country. We did not go into Iraq also because it wasn't UN sponsored. So we will help them. They are our neighbors. As I said, India is not a big traditional donor. We are helping them with $2 billion worth of assistance when our own people need it. So we are going out of our way to assist them. We have no ulterior motive except that a neighbor, the region should be peaceful. I cannot have 8% GDP growth in India and my next house is burning. It's going to affect us. So as a neighbor, we are trying to give them non-military assistance. We are doing some police training and all that. That's fine. But we are not involved in a great way as far as the training of military is concerned. We are, of course, looking at the post 2014 transition period. It will be a security transition, it will be a political transition. Hamid Karzai cannot contest again. And will be an economic transition, which all these have ramifications for all neighbors of Afghanistan, including India. Now, coming to your second question, whether Indian team will visit Pakistan. Well, to be frank, I cannot answer that question because that depends on the Board of Control for Cricket in India, number one. Second is our government, because they have to. But I think once the Pakistan cricket team comes and the situation improves internally in Pakistan, the law and order becomes better, which I hope it will, because there are all sorts of people creating problems internally for them all the time, whether it's Lashkar-e-Taiba, Pakistani Taliban and whatnot. And then there is this Haqqani network in Waziristan, which recently they have been declared a terrorist outfit by UN Security Council yesterday. So, things will improve, then we can definitely go. Because last time the Sri Lankan cricket team went, in 2009, terrorists attacked them. So we have to make sure that there is foolproof security arrangement for the Indian cricket team. That's of paramount importance. And of course, we would like to go and play at their home. I've lived in Pakistan. I've seen in 1989 Indian cricket team coming to Pakistan. I've seen Mr. Sachin Tendulkar making his debut when he was a 19-year-old playing in Pakistan. I've been to the residence of former Pakistani cricket captain Javed Miandad. With the whole Indian cricket team, I was a liaison officer. So you see, when you talked about people-to-people relationship, it's not only people-to-people by culture only. You have to encourage sporting links, and this is one way of doing it. Just now, the Deputy Chief Minister of our Punjab is in Lahore. The Pakistani ladies golf team is in Delhi. Now, there are a lot of exchanges happening, which is not reported widely in the media in the West. But these things are happening, and there are more interaction between the two countries nowadays. Oh, yes, sir. There's a question here, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Ram. The question is closer to home. It's encouraging that you're opening a council office here. Can you tell me more about what your plans about economic development or trade relationships? In a lot of countries, they have councils here. They're looking at opportunities, between US and their countries. Are you doing something similar to that in Atlanta?
Yes, sir. That is part of my job. Yeah, we also have similar plans, and we are already promoting it. Ani Agnihotri is here. I think just January, I made presentations of how the logistics setup is required in India. I made 2 PowerPoint presentations. I've spoken with the Metro Chamber of Commerce, Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. We are interacting with them. I'm interacting with the Economic Development Department of State of Georgia, and the state of the 8 US states and territories which are under our consular jurisdiction. We are interacting with the similar economic departments of there, with the chambers of commerce, with business leaders. I've called on the CEOs of most of the American and Indian companies which are based in Atlanta. So we are trying to promote trade and investment. There are several companies I mentioned about Coca-Cola. We have UPS, you have Equifax, which is also invested around $80 million in India. So there are several companies. And the trade we are promoting with all these 8 states, and we are looking forward to the deepening of the Savannah port also, where we can have more trade with Georgia in particular and US in general. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Bimla, and the reason that I got attracted to coming here is that we moved from Pakistan during the partition, and I still have very vivid memories of the culture there and growing and playing with, all Muslim friends and going to school together also. So much has been said about people-to-people relationship, and I think, sure enough, it starts from the top, but until and unless it trickles to that emotional connection, the battle is half won, so to say. Personally, I feel, like the gentleman here said, 99% of us are friendly, good people who want peace. It is just 1% that destroys the perceptions. The media, the role of the media as it gets projected constantly comes in the way. Is India doing anything as far the media coverage goes, the projection of one religion versus other religion, culture versus another culture? I mean, how is media responding in general to these things?
Well, today, I mean, India, as you know, is a secular country. So we can't propagate any religion or culture or anything like that per se. But within those parameters, we are the world's largest democracy. Media is an important pillar of the democracy. So we can't control media, tell them what to do and what not to do. But yes, there is an understanding and maturity in media today that they are willing to understand other viewpoints. If you see today's media reactions to the visit of the Pakistani cricket team, for example, to India, most of them are favorable. And now I think time has come, after 65 years of independence of both countries, that we, the media also, when I served in Pakistan in early 90s, late 80s, and today, I find the media also much better. Both sides, it doesn't, you have to clap from both sides. Both the medias were not so favorable. Now, I think most of the media put it properly to the large extent, because they have realized also that there should not be an element to propagate extremism or hatred, because as you mentioned, the 1%, the whole effort of ours is to defeat that 1%. And I think there's a realization also in government of Pakistan that they are really facing a lot of extremism, whether it's Taliban, whether it's Lashkar-e-Taiba and all. They are, Haqqani network and all that, and they are in serious trouble. We would like them also to have a good democracy, a stable democracy like ours. And once we have a good democracy, I think media to a large extent, behaves itself. And I think the Indian media is doing a good job, and within limits, because there are always different viewpoints, and you cannot control media in a democracy.
Will you join me in expressing your appreciation?
Thank you very much.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.